Facebook
Hi, friends.
here.
All right,
Instagram.
we have
Hello.
Facebook on one side and Instagram on the other side, because so people can show up where they like to show up. And obviously we don't have professional lighting, but that's fine because we're here and we're here to serve you guys and tell you a story about our life. A lot of it from Nick's perspective, because these are my social media accounts, so you guys hear from me a lot, but it's a special occasion to get to hear from this guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Hopefully it's not gonna be just a guest appearance. It'll be hopefully I'll be recurring.
You committed.
Figure.
We committed. We
That's
committed
true.
to our social media, not podcast.
And when you commit to
podcast.
social media, it has to happen.
You show up. We're here. We're excited.
We're excited. So, do you want to?
Yeah.
I guess
you
give
can
it.
start. Go
Should
for
I
it.
start? So,
Can you guys hear us talk nice and loud?
I do talk nice and loud. Sometimes, although sometimes she says, "Speak louder." You're mumbling. Which is ironic given my Greek heritage, but most of the time in our dating life, she was like, "Why are you yelling?" To which I would respond, "I'm not yelling, I'm just talking." So anyway, tonight, I know you've heard Lauren share lots of times about her health journey, our family's health journey. She talks about all the time. You see her making elderberry syrup and using oils in her diffuser and drinking her Ningxia right out of the bottle because that's what she loves to do. And
I
so
do like to do that. I did that today.
I judge you a little bit sometimes. But what I like to do, hey Nate, thanks for joining, is share, I guess, from my perspective, just to give you guys a little bit of a background. I know Lauren has told you, if you guys don't know, I'm still in active healthcare in my day-to-day job. Lauren is do we call you a retired nurse?
I'm a nurse who uses my nursing skills from home.
So, we're both in the healthcare field. We got married in 2010. I did medical school in Dayton, Ohio. Lauren did nursing school in Dayton, Ohio. And then we had our first kid. We moved to Michigan, did residency. And then we have stayed and kind of plopped here in Grand Rapids. So my background is both internal medicine and pediatrics. And
It's like a double major in college. A lot of people are like, what does that mean? It's like if you went to college and you did a double major, but he did that in medical school.
Yeah. So I did a lot of people too, when I say internal medicine pediatrics, are like, oh, so you see kids. They hear the pediatrics part of it and they're like, and I'm like, yes, I do. They're like, but I also see adults. It's an ongoing clarification. So yes, big people, little people, everyone in between. I do want to share, just before we kind of get started, we're going to talk about a lot of like health things. This is us just sharing our journey, our experience on a path to health and wellness and all sorts of things. This is not medical advice. This is not trying to prescribe anything.
We're not here to treat or diagnose anyone. We are here to share our story with the goal of it educating you guys, first filling you with hope for yourself, and then second, letting you know that options exist. Yeah. And that we're happy to help you with them if you want. As friends.
So, if you're a person who lives on the planet, you get sick. That happens. And I don't think I know any person that enjoys being sick. It's no fun. Winter comes around. I guess if you live in the South, maybe winter isn't that big of a deal for you if it's warm weather down there. But up here in Michigan or in most of the country, when it's cold and you're indoors more, and for those of you who have kids, which I'm sure there are many of you who have kids out there, your kids are constantly sick in the winter times, or at least that is the story we had grown up with, and that's the story we told, and honestly, that was our experience.
Yeah, that's the story we heard and the story we lived for a while, but not the story we live anymore.
Correct. And so when we started off on that, this was probably halfway through my residency. We had 2 kids. They were like 3 and 1. And we just went through this like winter of like month after month after month after month of one kid gets sick, the next kid gets sick, the adult gets sick, the other adult gets sick, another kid gets sick, and we just like played merry-go-round, like ring around the illness
It's like dominoes.
Yeah, dominoes. And like if you have kids, or even if you don't, I'm sure you've experienced that kind of dreaded feeling when you hear the first person in your home go, or you walk and you see your kid dripping runny nose and snot, or you hear them coughing and it sounds gross, and having that dread of, oh no, how bad is this going to be? When is it going to hit me? How bad is it going to hit me? How many days am I going to be out? Am I going to need to call off work? Am I going to be up all night?
And I would say, like, we considered ourselves healthy people with relatively healthy habits. Neither of us have ever been gym rats, but we move, and we felt like, it's true. It's true. We are not gym rats. But, you know, we eat relatively healthy. Like, I would say that we've always considered ourselves healthy people. From the beginning of our marriage, you know, we tried to make relatively healthy choices, but I think we just didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah, and I think that the way that we kind of operated, and even the way I think that I was trained to think about illness, was most illnesses is you have no control over it, it's going to happen, and most of the time you just have to wait till it gets better, and you just have to tough it out, and that's just part of life. And so that's how we lived, and that's how we practiced, and we were just exhausted, and we just came and we were just like, how can we do another winter of over and over? We were exhausted. We weren't getting sleep. I was working insane hours at the hospital. Lauren was also still working at the hospital at that time.
It's like I had to call off if someone was sick, or I had to go to work feeling like garbage if I was sick.
Yeah.
We were sick of having to skip stuff like church and Bible study because
everyone was sick.
This is apparently new to some people in the world, but we have tried to operate under trying to not go places when we're sick. I hope that's the biggest lesson everyone learns from the last 2 years is stay home when you're sick.
Stay home. Stay home.
That is medical advice.
Don't bring your germs to others. No one wants it. And so...
But we were sad to miss out on things because it felt like it was happening in a cycle.
Yeah, and I think it too, you know, when you're sick or when your kids are sick, you just don't have the capacity to do other things. You can't go out and do anything. You can't give your spouse the attention that you want to give them. You can't give your kids, you can't do fun things with your kids because they're sick, that your kids can't do fun things with their friends because they're sick. It just puts a huge downer on everybody, and you actually are incapacitated from living life while you're just kind of drudging through this illness. And so in comes Lauren, brought home some essential oils. She went to a friend's essential oil party and was like, I really think this would be really good for our family. We kind of dabbled for a little bit.
Yeah. I got them when I was super pregnant with Stella, and I had tried them for the very first time for athlete's foot that I'd had like for years, and they worked better than anything else I'd ever tried, and I was like, oh, these are legit. And then I went to a class that this friend was teaching, who also happens to be a nurse married to a physician. She's legit. But I went to her house. She's great. She changed our life. But, you know, I went to her house, and she shared a lot of the science, and she also shared a lot of the, like, how products that I had in my house, like, thinking they were good for our family and doing good things for us, were actually really bad for us. One of those being candles. You know, and I talk about some of that stuff, and in February, my education focus and some of the things we're going to talk about is how you can avoid ingredients in your products that are bad for you. But all that to say, I got started with oils because I was like, oh, they smell great and they're not toxic. Excellent.
And hey guys, for everybody that's joining live, sorry we haven't been saying hello to everybody as they've been joining. But if you're just jumping in, we're kind of just jumping into the when our focus shifted from this kind of what we're going to be talking about.
This is a hobby that smells good.
To this is something now we're doing with our life, and is an integral part of our life and wellness and health on a daily basis. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but really, like, the message we want to drive home of is we went from having this, like, almost victim mentality of, like, or like Lauren said earlier, like, I'm strapped to something on the train tracks, and the train's coming down the road, and there's literally nothing I can do but hope the train hitting me doesn't hurt so bad when it comes to illness.
Like, meaning, when you hear your kids coughing and sniffling, you're like, well, it's coming from me next.
Here we go. Yep, when's it going to hit and how hard is it going to hit, and I hope it doesn't hurt too bad, and I'll just close my eyes real tight. So we started off with these kind of like candle replacements, and then the more Lauren kind of started thinking about it and looking at more products from Young Living, she was like...
when you join our team, you get to participate, if you want to, in this education group that is like a wealth of literally 6,000 people's experiences. So I read a lot of things that people said these products were doing for them, and I was like, I mean, these smell good, but huh?
Yeah. Well, and I think...
But you can only read so many of those experiences before you're like,
yeah,
could this work for me? Like,
and
I've got to be curious.
You were way more there than I was. You were like, I think that we should do this. I think this will work. I think I really want to try this. And I was like, again, when I was a resident, I also, in our marriage, am much more the saver than the spender. I always feel like I have to, like, put reins on the money that we're spending, especially when I was a resident and I was not making very much money and we had a lot of debt. I was like, so Lauren came to me and she was like, I really want to try this. And I looked at the dollar signs. And I didn't look at, like, if I thought it would. I didn't read any of the things she had been reading. I didn't listen to the testimonials. I just said, that's really expensive for something that I don't know. Again, I was trained as a physician. I was trained to be skeptical of really anything that I didn't know or learn about. And so I was skeptical. And I was like, I'm skeptical, which healthy skepticism is good. But I also looked at the money and I said, I don't know that I want to risk and invest that money in something that I don't know for sure is going to work. I wanted to be sure that it was going to work before we started.
I think I saw like optimistic possibility, and you saw risk.
I saw risk. I saw we're going to spend a lot of money on something that like maybe tastes good and maybe smells good, but like isn't actually going to make any real impact on us. And we had a lot of back and forth. And so Lauren came to me one day and was like, okay, and it was like we had just finished like 2 months of like illness and sickness and coughing.
It was garbage.
And it was terrible. And she was like,
I was like, I'm so done.
I'm so done with this. I want to try this. I'll make you a deal. She's like, can we commit to doing this regularly every day for like 2 months, 2-3 months? We'll commit the money.
Yeah, it wasn't more than 3. I said 2 or 3.
You said 2 or 3. And we're going to do this. And then if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, we won't invest this money again.
The thing I said the worst case scenario is we're out some money, but we'll know. Mm-hmm. I was like, I won't have to keep wondering if this is going to do anything or not. We'll know if it's doing something.
Yeah. And
which, side note, couple days at a time, not usually long enough to know if a health change is working for you, just like any exercise or diet change.
Yeah.
60 to 90 days, you can probably get an idea.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we were. So things we started doing, we invested some money, we invested some time, we invested some energy learning. What kind of things do we need to do? How do we need to spend our time? We're not going to go a ton into like super details. But like things we're going to
do a rundown of like the top 5 things that we did, and we will talk about them in more depth and like the how-tos on other videos.
Yeah. You've heard Lauren talk a lot about all of these: elderberry syrup, vitamin C, Ningxia, hand washing, like actually forcing our kids and ourselves to like wash hands when we're at the park, we're out at church.
The biggest time
church, small Bible study.
Like, we weren't disgusting. Like, we washed hands and we washed our kids' hands.
You literally said earlier, I literally didn't even think about washing hands before we started.
He threw me under the bus.
She was like, never thought about that.
He totally just threw me under the bus, and I hope some of you guys are laughing. When we were talking about this earlier, the thing that we switched was every time we get home from an outing, good, they are laughing. Yeah. Every time we get home from an outing, we send our kids straight to the bathroom to wash their hands.
Yeah.
That is something that we started a couple years ago. Yeah. It was like when we thought of it before then.
So to be clear, guys, we were doing these things not just like, oh, somebody's sick, so we're going to start taking these things. Like every day we were doing something, most of these things.
You listed 4 out of the 5. The one that you didn't say was we started using thieves oil. And if you've been following my winter wellness stuff on my stories, which is also in an Instagram highlight, you can use essential oils in, on, and around your body. There's 3 ways to use them. And Thieves is a blend that supports your immune system extremely well. There's a bajillion studies about the oils that are a part of it. But we started using Thieves at the very minimum on our body topically and in a diffuser every day.
Yep.
Usually at bedtime.
And the other thing that through this process, it really helped us kind of think about was we started paying attention to when like those first like tickles, like the first tickle in the back of your throat, or the first little runny nose, or the first person that started getting sick in the family, and then everybody started kind of getting okay.
Like we would like double up for everyone.
Double up and hunker down and be more intentional about what we were doing and how we were doing. And over the next 2 months, there were noticeable changes. Like very, very obviously, like the illness just stopped. Like we didn't get sick. We didn't the same way we used to. The kids didn't pass germs to them and to us. We weren't staying up all night with coughing, runny noses, just like nasty.
It was fever. Like, if you I compare when I teach sometimes our bodies to a car, right? We learned to take care of our body when the check engine light was on,
and get regular oil changes before your light comes
on. But it
on.
was also like our life transition was also like if your car just constantly makes this noise all the time, and then you finally take it in and it stops, and it's like no longer making that horrid noise.
Yeah. And so it was so noticeable that, and this was 4 years ago, at least 4 years ago. So, we had that conversation. I think you were like,
well, guess we'll keep buying it.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, I haven't even thought about it, and I'm so glad that, like, that conversation we had where I was so skeptical, like, I'm giving you 2 months to, like, prove to me that this is worth it, and here we are 4 years later. Here we are even to the point where I'm the one that we were getting into, and I was like, man, I really love all these products that we're using all the time. I love that we're not as sick as we used to be, that we recovered from illness better and faster, and we feel better more of the time, that we have more tools to be able to use to keep ourselves feeling good.
Yeah. This story is basically what precipitated me starting my Young Living business, because we experienced this change in our family. And I remember Nick was like, you should probably teach people about this because it works so well.
Yeah. Like, I'm the one that told her, hey, if you start doing this and build this as a business, 1, other people get to benefit from this that learn, and 2, it brings home money that we can still use to make these products, because I never want to go without these products anymore. Like, I don't want these products to not be in our house anymore because it has changed our life so drastically. And so that's kind of what I wanted to just share with you guys is, medical doctor, super skeptical, like, of this thing that was like, oh yeah, and you're gonna feel better and just be less sick. And in my head, I'm like, well, if it sounds too good to be true, it definitely is too good to be true. There's no way that's real. There's no way that's.
Yeah, we were talking about earlier. You said you were like, what does immune boosting even mean?
Yeah, I was like, that's not a thing. Like, you just, whatever happens to you just happens to you, and that's just completely not been our experience anymore for the last 4 years. And so much that, I mean, guys, like, I'll tell you so much. The reason we're doing this tonight, I cannot tell you how many times I hear out of people's mouths nowadays, like, that have kids, that are married, that are just like, oh yeah, and so-and-so got sick, and, everybody gave it to everybody else in the house, and we're all just miserable, and then they got another one, a month later, and in my head I'm, like, screaming, like, you can do something. Like, that doesn't have to be your story anymore. Because it's not our story anymore. And please don't hear me say or take away, again, and that's skeptic. Like, it's good to have skepticism, but to have that skeptic say, like, okay, Nick, you're just like, come on, right? Whatever you're saying is too good to be true. Like, you know, it's all good and no bad. Like, don't hear me saying we never get sick anymore, because that's not true.
Because we're
human beings. Because even though we're doing all these things, we get stressed out.
I was just literally, I was going to be
we
like,
travel.
We're still learning to manage our stress.
Yeah. We have sugar sometimes in the holidays because it tastes good. We stay up late watching TV and scrolling on our phones or playing video games with friends and don't get enough sleep. Or we have babies that wake us up and we get poor sleep. You know, there are things in your life that you just can't control that if everything was perfect, maybe things would be going that way.
Or you can control and you choose not to sometimes and reap the consequences.
Yeah. But when we get sick, it just does not take us out for the count like it used to.
It also doesn't spread through everybody in the family anymore.
Or even if it does, I can even remember, like,
I think it's
this
only
winter,
happened 2 times in the last 4 years that I can remember.
And most people in the family, like, even if we have symptoms, like, most of the time, like, if I'm sick now, it's like, I have a runny nose, and I'm just, like, annoyed that I even have any symptoms. I'm not, like, on the couch, under the blankets, you know, curled up, taking 3 naps a day. Like, that just doesn't happen to us or our kids, really.
Almost ever.
Not never. And so I wanted to come on and share that with you guys, that listen from the skeptic. Listen from the person who thought this was too good to be true, that you guys don't have to, if you're not doing things on a regular basis to promote your health and wellness, to do things proactively, right? I think that we have grown up in this mentality, and myself included, that illness just happens to you, or like you're trying to do everything you can to not get sick, or hoping and praying and just crossing your fingers like, I hope I don't get sick, but not actually doing anything to strengthen your body so when you get sick. Like, illness is going to happen. Like, you're going to come into contact with a virus. You're going to come into contact with bacteria. Like, we live and breathe in places that are not good for us. And even more so in today's society, where we have cars and, like, pollutants and, you know, stuff in our food that's bad for us and pesticides. Like, we're constantly coming at our body's being assaulted all the time by things that are bad for us. And so what if we shifted our mindset and said,
instead of trying to run away from all the germs,
that I'm going to prepare my body for when they come, my body is going to be ready, and I'm going to know it, and it's going to know what to do. And on top of that, I'm going to have tools to be able to improve and get myself better faster. It is possible. So I'm going to go on this note. I'm going to go a little bit nerdy for you guys, if you can hang with me.
Nerdy is good.
Nerdy is good. There's 2 different theories that I want to talk about, that in terms of the way we think about illness. The reality is that truth is probably, some people subscribe to one or the other. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, which honestly is probably most things. Like, it's never one or the other. It's usually
a both and.
So, germ theory, terrain theory. Germ theory is you get sick because your body comes into contact with germs, and the germs make your body ill, and your body fights off the germs. And then you get better when you have cleared the germs. Guys, remember, germs are bacteria and viruses. Our bodies are composed of trillions of bacteria and viruses all the time. They live on our skin, in our mouth, in our gut, in our lungs, in your nose.
They're not always bad for us.
There's a ton of very, very good viruses and bacteria that are constantly living harmoniously and helping our bodies. And so germ theory, like, we do get sick with germs. I work in a hospital. I take care of people with bad germs all the time. They make people sick. There's medications that you need to get better. That happens. Terrain theory. What if, when you encounter germs, the terrain that it encounters is super uninhabitable or super opposed to that germ, so that germ can't take hold and cause illness? Meaning, if your body is strong, if your immune system is ready and prepared, if you are eating nutritious foods and sleeping and resting and exercising and having good mindset and lowering your stress. What if your body was ready for these illnesses? And so when your body comes into contact with germs, they just don't get as sick as maybe some other ones were. It's both. It's not just avoid away from germs for forever. Again, if the last year or 2 years has taught us anything, you can't run away from germs.
Your best defense is a good offense.
Exactly. And so what we want to talk with you guys tonight is get out of the victim mentality. You're not a sitting duck for illness. There's not zero you can do to fight illness. There's not zero you can do to prepare your body to be strong when illness happens. And we have learned over the course of the last 4 years that this is possible and this is achievable, but it takes practice and it takes hard work, and sometimes it takes financial investment, which I think maybe sometimes that's maybe even one of the hardest ones, but like it's possible. And so
I think I just want to, like, our vision for these, like, videos is we are going to share, not all today, but, like, different times. I don't know, maybe we haven't talked exactly, weekly-ish. Like, some of the things...
Don't hold us to that.
We'll figure it out. What I'm trying to say is that mentality of, like, you can show up with your best self and there are things you can do to take ownership. We have this, like, kind of started for us with our health, but it's bled over into our parenting and our relationships and our faith and the way that we spend our time and our money in other ways. And so, like, that's, like, what's on our heart to share with you guys.
Yeah. Like, we have been encouraged and challenged. Really, I mean, I've been blessed by a lot of the ways that Lauren has been, like, working in her business to, like, really just think about the ways she thinks about herself and thinks about the choices we make in her life, and thinks about time with our kids, being present for our kids. I've been in my, so I talked earlier, I did a double major in internal medicine and pediatrics. I'm also studying another fellowship in integrative medicine online for the next year and a half to 2. I'm about 6 months in.
Yeah, you started in August.
To really just say, okay, I want to encourage people. I want to focus on things that I know are important. I want to encourage others. Where I was going with this, as part of my fellowship, I've been learning about mindfulness. Actually, there's a whole course that I got signed up for through my fellowship to learn about mindfulness and how we think
affects how our body works.
How our body works.
It's insane.
That our thoughts matter. The things we think about ourselves, the things we think about others, the ways we interpret what's going on, the way we try and multitask every minute of our lives because we're so attached to technology and all these things. It impacts our health and our mental wellness and our resiliency. And so we want to just be a kind of source of encouragement for people to, like, you can show up in your life. You can be present with your kids. Like, you are not a victim to your circumstances. Like, yes, things will just happen in life that you have no control over. But that doesn't mean you have no say in how that plays out.
Well, and I think the expectation that challenge is coming and what can I do to be ready for it, instead of, like, please don't find me.
Yeah.
To challenge. Like, that is, I feel like, something that the Lord has been teaching us a lot over, I don't know, forever, and also the last year and the last month, like, whatever time designation you want to put on it. But that's, like, it's like now it's so obvious that we need to share this with people to encourage them.
Yeah. So our vision for tonight, obviously we focused a lot about health, but we're going to talk about other health things. We're going to talk about marriage. We're going to talk about our faith. We're going to talk about parenting. We just really want to encourage you that change is hard. Change costs you something. if you learn from this video, it might cost you money. It might cost you
pride.
For me, pride of like just saying like I'm gonna try something that if I truly said in my heart think is not gonna do anything, but I'm gonna try it anyway and just see what happens. And that it's worth it. That you have to fight for good things. Like good things don't come at zero cost.
Yeah, but I think, like, for us, the return on the investment in our health has been so good. And so, yeah, our goal, like, as we take baby steps towards being healthier humans in every aspect, like, physically, spiritually, in our mind, in our relationships, like we said, like, sometimes you just have to start somewhere. So that's, like, our call and our encouragement to you guys. Is like, think about it. What are those things that are hanging over your head, and what can you do to start today to make a difference, to shift your trajectory? I have been working really hard over the last year or two in trying to ditch guilt in my mind. I think I'm not the only human wife or mom that is plagued with guilt in their mind sometimes, but you know what? I finally realized, like, I don't have to just listen to this. Like, I can actually do something about it. And starting to ditch your guilt a lot of the times is taking that step towards the thing that's nagging you. And you guys are worth the investment. Like, we are worth the investment in changing our mind about things, or like just starting those habits so that we can show up as our best self. There is hope for you guys. Like, if you are in that cycle of like feeling like you and your family are sick and tired of being sick and tired, there's hope that things can be different. We experienced that. It rocked our world. That's why we're still talking about it 4 to 5 years later. Because we are so grateful. Like, we literally come home and, like, I don't know if I would say we cry, but we're just, like, so sad. Like, when we get those texts or hear stories, you know, we hear from our friends that are like, oh, yeah, I can't come to such and such because I feel like garbage. We're like, oh, they don't have to live like this. Our experience has been that Young Living products, as well as some other ones, were massively worth the investment, and they totally changed our life. And I get messages from my customers at least weekly saying, I wish I had started this sooner. So if you're ready to make that investment today, I have bundle links of some of the simplest things that you can start with that I can put in the comments of this video, or I can send to you. We are also more than happy to have a conversation with anybody that's curious about which products would be like for them. I say this often, shopping with Young Living is like eating at the Cheesecake Factory. You could go in with any mood. If you want an appetizer, great. If you want a dessert, great. If you want brunch at 10 p.m., great. If you want a burger, whatever. Like, Young Living is the one-stop shop for improving your body's wellness. You get to pick what you're in the mood to start with. We're happy to help you figure out what products might serve your needs. All of my customers get access to our educational community and free apps and email text resources. Like, we are not here for anyone to be our patient through this. We are here to share that there is hope to live differently, and that we have been blessed by resources and a community that have taught us how to do that, and we want to share those resources and community and knowledge with you. I mean, our encouragement basically is like, if we want to move in a new direction, we have to be willing to invest in doing something new. You know, for me, that's changing my thoughts about some things. For you, that might be switching your cleaner, or it might be finally trying that red stuff that Lauren drinks all the time, or it might be walking your dog 3 times a week. You know, regardless of where you're at with what is speaking to you or products you do or don't want to try, we hope that you guys keep listening as we share different topics, because we're confident that you're going to find value. We pray that you're going to find hope and encouragement, and our goal is to give you nuggets of different things that you can implement into your life. You know, like I said, it's going to be some combo of our personal experiences, parenting, health, stuff Nick's learning in his fellowship. Made a nice long Google Doc of ideas I had. And also, you know, if you guys know us personally, or if you don't, and if you're like, hey, can you talk about such and such thing? Like, send us a topic. We would love...
Type it in the comments below.
Yeah. You're a professional.
I'm a professional.
You're a professional.
I'm a professional social media.
Social media.
See, that's how professional I am.
You're killing me.
I do have a mug with my name on it. That's how professional I am.
Oh my gosh. Oh my word. You're funny. But
It's good tea.
our goal is to show up and encourage and serve. So if there are things that you want to pick our brain about, we don't have an office, but we have social media. So thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah, thanks everybody for being here.
We're going to end this video. Not sure yet when we're going to do the next one, but we'll go back and see if there were questions or comments. And thank you guys for spending part of your evening with us.
If you have other questions like pertaining to this video, like type in the comments and we'll try and get back to them.
Oh, for sure. And like we recognize that time is the investment that you can never really get back. So we feel privileged and thankful that you spent some of your time with us. I think that's it. Thank you guys so much. And I look forward to seeing them next time.
Yeah.
Okay. Take care, you guys.